Come on, how excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10 that testing starts next week, and the fact that we've got 5 cars that have already been launched so far for the 2020 season? But they all look the same. Those are some of the comments that people are saying about the 2020 cars and have been launched so far. Well, what did you expect? There are no big surprises. I mean, come on, get a grip. And then you get people who moan that there aren't glamorous events for the launches of these cars. And then Ferrari go and do something very special about the heritage of Italy and where the flag comes from. And then you get people posting, we just want to see the car. We just want to see the car. Formula One fans and people are extremely fickle. And the keyboard warrior brigade are just something, well, to admire. We're a bit of a strange bunch at the best of times. Also, I want to tell you, be very mindful of what information you consume on the interwebs. There was talk of the SF1000, I'll get to that in a short while, being colored with the tricolore, the 3 colors, something a little bit similar to, what we have here in Jody Scheckter's Ferrari. And then it was going to be a tribute to Gilles Villeneuve. And I got to be honest, Gilles Villeneuve was one of my favorite racing drivers. I just loved, his bravado, all of that. But if they were going to do a tribute car, surely it would have been to Jody Scheckter. I mean, Jody Scheckter won the World Championship. Gilles Villeneuve never won the World Championship. Here's a bit of trivia for you. Only one Ferrari Formula One car in the 70-year history of them competing was a tribute car. Do you remember which one it was? Huh? Okay, I'll give you the answer in a bit. Now, before I show you the cars, let me give you some simple opinions and other news, what I chat about. Big news that came out this last week, the Chinese Grand Prix has been postponed. I think it will eventually be cancelled, and we will only have 21 races this year. But what about Vietnam? It seems to be on the cards because Vietnam is actually 2 weeks prior to the Grand Prix of China, but it seems as though everything's okay for Vietnam, and one does hope so, specifically as this is their inaugural event. How this affects what the stands are going to be like, we'll just have to wait and see. Listen, I do hope that the Chinese authorities get up to speed with this incredible pandemic when it comes to this coronavirus. It's claimed so many lives already, and let's hope that they manage to contain it as soon as possible. Here's another question for you. When was the last time a Formula One Grand Prix was cancelled? Okay, now you've got 2 things to think about. If you think you know the answers, scroll them down over here, write them down, and I'll give them to you in a couple of minutes. Yes, I'll get to the cars in a short while, but reading some of the issues and stories that have been around, the factual ones, one really caught my eye. And here I think is a very, very healthy debate. Alain Prost has come out again and said how much he dislikes the Senna movie. Have you seen Senna? The movie called Senna. I mean, it's 9 years already since that movie was brought out. What are your thoughts about the movie? And let me tell you, if you want to watch a brilliant documentary, then watch this one. It's called A Star Named Ayrton Senna. Now, I've watched just about every single documentary or piece of footage that was made around Senna. And I too was very critical of the Senna movie, the official movie when it came out. It depicts Alain Prost as being a self-absorbed, arrogant, spoilt racing driver. Nothing could be further from the truth. Prost was a master driver, as quick as anyone on the day, and had a brilliant rivalry with Ayrton Senna. And as much as I loved and hated Senna because he kept on beating my beloved team, I loved Prost and hated him for the same reasons. Alain Prost is, without a doubt, one of the greatest Formula One drivers and champions the world has ever seen. And he deserves a lot more respect from people who only know him from watching a movie called Senna. Do yourself a favor, just go and do some research, do some Googling on Alain Prost and go and see how this guy was. I mean, he was called a professor for a specific reason. He was just so tactical. He was so brilliant in the way that he drove and managed races. I mean, he's an incredible racing driver. Don't forget, he more than likely should have 5 world titles and not 4. I mean, he lost the 1 world title by half a point to Niki Lauda back in 1984. Okay, now back to the questions. All right, which Ferrari Formula One car was the only car that was made as a tribute car? You got it? It was the F12003GA. The 2003 car for Formula One was made as a tribute to the founder of Fiat. And, well, I mean, just like a sort of a hero of Italian industry, Gianni Agnelli. And also the second question, when was the last time a Formula One race was cancelled? Bahrain, 2011. Remember the uprising of the Arab Spring? There were all of the protests, and Formula One said, listen, hey, we don't want to have anything to do with that. Okay, so let's talk 2020. 5 cars today, up until today, have launched their 2020 contenders, and that's if you exclude the Haas livery pictures which we were shown, and then also the wonderful interview with Toto Wolff and Sir Jim Ratcliffe about Ineos as being a partner for the the Mercedes team for 2020. We've got some sneak pics of the car, but just a few minutes ago, Mercedes launched the W11. Let's go chronologically how it went. The F1000 Ferrari. So, the name. This year, Ferrari will compete in its 1000th Formula One race. I mean, it's quite astonishing. A lavish launch in the north of Italy to signify the Italian heritage of the brand Ferrari. One thing I really like about this car, well, it's not really the car, is Sebastian Vettel's black gloves. And black seems to be an overall theme during this year. I mean, I'm wearing this Alfa Romeo white, and I think they're going to be in black this year. I'm just thinking, maybe, I don't know. Let me say this. All of the cars that are launched will look different when we go racing in Melbourne. The teams don't want to give off too much to their competition from the launch cars, and rightfully so. The one great thing we do have is that when we go into testing next week, the teams are not allowed to cover up the fronts of their garages like before. So whatever they do, they have to do in the open. So that's quite cool. All of the cars do look pretty similar to what they were in 2019. There are a few differences on the Ferrari F1000. The rake is much higher. Now what that means is they can adjust the ride height specifically at the back of the car significantly more than they could do last year. And that's very similar, I think, to what Red Bull does. Will it be the right direction? We don't know. Will it make a challenger to Mercedes or Red Bull? We do not know at this stage. We need the teams to be able to compete against Mercedes at every circuit, not just a few. So that surely is the ambition of all of the teams. Mercedes sit there, no, their car works brilliantly everywhere. Maybe at some tracks it's not as brilliant, but it is competitive at every single circuit. Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, Renault, and the rest of the teams have to ensure that they've got a car that is capable of competing with Mercedes at every circuit. There are some other changes on the Ferrari F1000. The barge boards, the turning vanes are closer to the nose. The engine cover is much sleeker, so it seems as though they've got this center of gravity a lot better. These are very clever people who design and engineer all of these cars. So, for all of the teams, one hopes that they've done their maths correctly. Now, what I'll do is, below this video, I will post you the technical side of the car. So you can go and read up about the SF1000, the RS20, the RB35, the McLaren MCL 35, as well as the W11 from Mercedes. Those will all be linked below, and that's all very technical stuff, but you can go and do it. Okay. Also, I'm not going to discuss driver pairings in this video because I think that deserves its own video on its own. We'll go through the competition between each of the drivers, most probably during the testing season next week. But of course, Ferrari will have Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc. I have heard people and some things bandied about that this car is now developed specifically for the driving style of Sebastian Vettel. If you believe that, then you also believe the earth is flat. Ferrari cannot afford to go and make a car that is driver specific at this stage of their careers. They need a car that is competitive at every single circuit, and it's up to the driver to now go out there and do their best. Okay, Red Bull.
Hi guys, it's again time for the helmet reveal. So I'll take it. So a new helmet. Most importantly, what changed I think is my new partner, carnext.com. As you can see it quite clear on the helmet. It's also up here in the front. The rest of the helmet, this year I didn't want to change too much because I really liked the white background. So basically I opted for a little bit more white. Last year here was still a bit blue. And as you can see, a bit more gold as well. So also on the top, the lion is basically the opposite to what it was last year, where there was a lot of red with a little bit of gold. This year it's mainly gold with a little bit of red. And yeah, I think the rest of the helmet, the V is still there, and the back of the helmet, just every detail a bit in gold. So not too many changes, but a bit more a fresher look, a bit more white, and especially with the halo, of course, on top of the car, this will stand out a bit more. So I think at the end, yeah, little changes, but pretty happy with it.
Now, how's that sound? How's that sound? I am backing Red Bull to come out firing this year. They've got the brilliant Max Verstappen and the greatly talented Alexander Albon as their drivers. So the front nose looks a little bit different compared to what it was last year, but overall, the rest of the car looks pretty similar. I think and I predict that Honda are going to be super fast. I'm sure they're going to be reliable. And don't forget, they do have Alpha Tauri, Toro Rosso that they can still sort of piggyback a little bit on when it comes to Honda power. But Red Bull, definitely my team to upset the apple cart this year. Renault! Is it just me, or does it look a little bit like a banana going off? Started off red, now all of a sudden it's gone black. But that's a testing livery, so we don't know what it's going to look like when we see it in Melbourne. But the suits, the race suits, look fantastic. Danny Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon returning to Formula One. Will this be the firecracker that Danny Ricciardo needs to elevate this team? He can only do so much. Renault, this is a massive year for Renault. They were very disappointing last year. Yeah, they finished 5th in the championship. It's not good enough. This is a factory team. This is Renault. They have one of the most illustrious and magnificent histories in the sport of Formula One. And they're sort of going, well, maybe in 2 years or 3 years, maybe we'll get a podium or a win. It's not good enough, Renault. It's not good enough. We want to see you there up fighting with Mercedes, with Ferrari, with Red Bull, all of the time, challenging for wins. That's what Renault is about. That's what we expect from Renault. And I'm hoping that they've gone extreme and they're going to push extremely hard this year with their Renault RS20. If they don't, and Vettel decides that he doesn't want to partake in Formula One anymore, they're going to lose Danny Ricciardo. And then what they're going to look for. So Renault, this is massively powerful and year for you. You have to do better. The McLaren MCL 35. Oh, it looks great. I wonder what Fernando Alonso is thinking right now. Oh wait, he's trying to get himself an Indy drive and it doesn't seem to be going very well. How the times have changed, it's quite bizarre. And he's trying to get back into Formula One, yet no one will touch him. How many bridges did he burn on his way into becoming a world champion? Back to McLaren. I've said it before, I'll say it over and over again. I'm hugely impressed with Andreas Seidl. I think Andreas Seidl is so methodical, he's processed, he understands what has to happen in order of an order for McLaren to progress. And if you look where McLaren were before he joined to where they are now, McLaren, in my opinion, have a very, very strong chance of winning a Grand Prix this year. Or maybe several. I know you might be thinking, are you crazy? I'm telling you, they've got two great drivers in Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, but it's Andreas Seidl's organizational skills that is turning the McLaren into the McLaren that I remember. The McLaren under the Ron Dennis days. As autocratic as it was, Ron Dennis just made sure that everything worked and he did not accept failure. And Andreas Seidl, in a much more democratic kind of a way, is beginning to show that McLaren is still the powerhouse that they've always been in Formula One. I think they're going to be very classy this year. The only one issue that one maybe could have, and maybe it's the cynical side of me coming out, is that they've got Renault power and it's their last year with Renault before they go over to Mercedes-Benz. So the question is, will Renault supply them with the same kind of power units that they have in their own Renault cars? Renault, as I've mentioned, has a huge year for them. They cannot afford to be beaten by their rivals at McLaren. But, hey, you know what? I believe Renault are going to do the best that they can do for their teams and ensure that McLaren have the right power units there and that it works. McLaren, I really believe, are going to have a very, very strong 2020. And finally, Mercedes-Benz, the W11. Just been released a few minutes ago, and these are the only pictures that I have on it. But look at it. It is just beautiful, magnificent. I've even written here, wow, wow, wow. That's what I think of the Mercedes W11. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the first ever road car that was made by Mercedes back in 1890 something or whatever was actually called the W11. So, you know, I don't know, the wheel has turned, pardon the pun. So the thing about Mercedes, yes, it's going to look a lot like last year's car. How much tweaking do they have to do? Red Bull are changing noses, Ferrari are changing side pods and barge boards and engine covers and turning vanes in order to try and get up to the level where Mercedes are. Mercedes are at that level that they're competitive at every single circuit that they go to. Yes, some they're not as competitive as others, but they're going to be in the top 3 or 4 in every single race. So the other teams are still playing catch up. Mercedes just have to tweak little bits here and there. Don't count out that Lewis Hamilton could well match Michael Schumacher's 7 world championships at the end of the season. Big year for Valtteri Bottas. He doesn't want to be a number 2 driver much longer. Is this his last chance at Mercedes? And then thereafterwards, you know, where does he go? Maybe it'll uplift him if he's in a team where he's got a little bit more, dare I say, respect. But Bottas has to go out there and take the challenge to Lewis Hamilton. But this Mercedes W11 is, well, it's pretty. That's for sure. So there we go. 5 of the teams have released their cars now and launched them for 2020. Next week we start getting into testing. I'll do an update on all of the teams that release next week, and 2 of them are going to be launching at Barcelona in the morning. So I'll do something of an update on the first day of testing. I'm so excited. I cannot wait for the season to begin, but at least we get some testing. Those are the cars this year. Go over it again. Don't forget the links at the bottom will give you more of the technical elements of each of the cars if you want to go and read up on that. Otherwise, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and make sure you follow me on F1 Sasha on Facebook. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, take care. Ciao, ciao. Follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at F1 Sasha.